The vampire, one of, if not the most popular of creatures in old myth and legend, still today we tell stories of these beings. Dating, in the UK at least, from as long ago as the Middle Ages, these creatures were said to have spread diseases like the plague to towns and villages. Believing that their undead corpses would roam the streets and roads at night, villagers would burn the suspect bodies to dust, would remove their hearts and place bricks in their mouths to prevent from further spreading. Of course, this image has changed over the years. Our modern literature and films have sculpted these creatures differently. However, at their heart, or lack thereof, they have always been a siphon of life force, blood and health. In the year 1738, on a patch of countryside in the south of England, in a town called Tarrant, Gunville, a grand estate by the name of Eastbury House had just been completed. Its original owner, George Doddington, did not see its unveiling, having died 18 years prior. Instead, his nephew, George Bubb, who assumed the name of George Bubb Doddington, inherited his estate. Bubb was often said to be the butt of high society in his time, often referred to as an overweight dandy. Richard Cumberland, secretary to Lord Halifax, who was close with George Bubb, mentioned that his bulk and corpulency gave full display to a vast expanse and profusion of brocade and embroidery. He tells of a time when George met the Queen and approached to kiss her hand in an embroidered suit of silk, with a lilac waistcoat and breeches, the latter of which, in the act of kneeling down, forgot their duty and broke loose from their moorings in a very indecorous and uncourtly manner. However, Bubb was a successful politician, becoming close friends with the one Sir Francis Dashwood, founder of the Hellfire Club. During his life, the Eastbury House and estate entertained many guests and was a grand show of Bubb's wealth and social standing. After he passed away in 1762, Richard Earl Temple inherited the estate. Unable to run such a costly home, he offered £200 to anyone willing to live in Eastbury Estate. Ultimately, this had no success. One telling of the story goes as such. It was too expensive to maintain, so Richard had the building demolished in 1782. There's only one thing. Richard was said to have passed away in 1779. The other tale goes as follows. Instead, after Richard died, the house was inherited by his nephew, George Grenville. George also struggled to maintain an estate such as Eastbury, and as such, in 1795, while he was away in Italy, his manservant, a man named William Doggett, was tasked with dismantling the wings of the house. Doggett took it a step further. Not expecting his master to return to such an unimportant estate, Doggett dismantled all of the main house and one of the wings, profiting off of its materials. On the 23rd of June 1786, it is said that Doggett heard of his master's return, that his coach had arrived at the turn-in to the village. In a state of panic, knowing that his master would return and see what little of the estate was left, Doggett fled to Eastbury House Library and himself. It is said that the blood that stained the marble floor still sits to this day, unable to be cleaned. William Doggett was buried nearby in the graveyard of the St Mary the Virgin Church in Tarrant, Gunville. An odd decision considering his end. At that time, it was unlikely a victim of would be buried on consecrated ground. Soon after, villagers reported seeing his ghoulish figure walk the graveyard at night. Author Peter Underwood writes that during 1845, 49 years after Doggett's death, when the local church was demolished and rebuilt, graves were required to be moved. When Doggett's coffin was opened, workmen discovered his body was not decomposed and had a rosy complexion. His legs were also found tied with fresh and brightly coloured yellow silk ribbon, and that Doggett's ghost was seen, his face a mass of blood. Author John H. Ingram in 1879 quoted, "They found the body in a fair preservation, and the course of the bullet from jaw through his head was distinctly visible. The old man described him as a short ginger-haired man. His legs had been tied together with a broad yellow ribbon, which was fresh and brightly coloured, as when it was buried." Similarly, author Charles G. Harper writes, "The workmen exhuming his body found his legs to have been tied together with yellow silk ribbon. The material was as fresh and as bright as the day it had been tied, and the body had not decayed." The credulous country folk averred that he was a vampire. Charles also writes that Doggett's ghost was also said to have been seen. It is the ghost of Doggett, the fraudulent steward of that Earl Temple, which haunts the road and the long drive up from the park gates to the house. The neighbourhood knows Doggett very well indeed, and can tell you how, emulating the vaster frauds of him who built the place, he robbed his employer and oppressed the tenantry, and at last himself. Generally, at the stroke of midnight, a coach with a headless coachman and headless horses drives out and picks up Doggett down the road. If you see an old world figure at such a time stepping into that horrid conveyance, you will recognise him as Doggett by his knee breeches tied with yellow silk ribbon. The headless coachman asks, out of his neck, "Where to, sir?" And the ghost says, "Home," whereupon the horses are whipped up and they drive back to the house. The shade of Doggett entering proceeds to the panelled room where he shot himself a century and a half ago, and shoots himself again. What do we all think? Was Doggett's ghost truly seen? Was he a vampire cursed by his greed? Or maybe it was George Bubb's ties to the occult that cursed this story in the first place? We will never know. Thank you so much everyone for watching this video. It's my first, so I do hope to improve a lot in my coming projects. Let me know if you've heard about this tale. I'm from the county myself, so love local folklore and legends, and I will definitely be diving further into the mythology in the deep southern parts of England in future videos. Thank you again everyone. This has been The Weird.